What's going on, profiteers? Hope all is well. Another episode of Combos with the CFP Mario Payne in beautiful New Jersey. Here for a speaking engagement in New Jersey. Shouts out to the company that brought me along to talk to some individuals about life from a motivational speaking standpoint. Love when I get invited out to share my story. I mean, I do have my own ETF on the stock market, well, co-owned, of course, bobbing around. So shouts out to the team for launching the ETF. We have, of course, our own app on the App Store, Google Play Store, Let Be, LETBOB. So maybe to talk to individuals about our journey, how I have my practice for 16 years, how I've been able to grow my practice, how we help people. So it's great. But in New Jersey, was able to fly into Philadelphia. Man, Philadelphia, y'all got it good. Y'all got y'all baseball team, y'all football team, and y'all basketball team right then and there in one capacity. Man, whoever was the developers of that development, they got to the bag. But it made me think. You think about when they first built the stadiums and how it is now, from a rent standpoint, from a compounded interest standpoint, kind of how much money that investment they made grew to today. And I had a conversation with a client last week about the same thing, about compounded interest. The question was, hey, Mr. CFP, hey, Mario, why is it that, my account has grown so much over the past few years? Like, what am I doing differently? And really not anything different besides beating the stock market like we do every single year. Uh, Thank you, God, for that. But the biggest thing is compounding interest. So I wanted to have a conversation today about compounding interest, how that works, how we can, over time, continue to make more money than what we invest if we do compounded interest, and why I think compounded interest is the secret that nobody talks about from an investment standpoint. Yeah, we talk about, we buy low and sell high, but if we continue to do that and our money is making money on top of itself, over time our money grows. But first and foremost, what is compounding interest? Let's look below. So now we got to look at Investpedia. I love Investpedia because it's like Wikipedia, but from an investment standpoint. But as we can see here, as I shake it, what is compounding interest? Compounding interest is the interest on savings calculated on both the initial principal and accumulated interest of previous periods. Theoretically speaking, I got $100,000. I made 5%. That's $5,000. Well, the next year, if I now have 105,000 and I make 5%, I didn't make $5,000. Now I made $6,250 because, of course, 5% of 105 is 6,250. And then the next year, another one, DJ Khaled, another one, another year, another year, another year. Our money just continues to grow. So what happens is over time, our money is making money on itself because it's compounding, right? So the more money that we make, it's important as investors, as if we don't cash in. A lot of times you hear people say, I want to pocket my gains. Well, what does that mean? When you pocket your gains, if we invest $100,000, we make $5,000, we pocket it and take out $5,000, we're starting at $100,000 again. Now, yes, that $5,000 can be used to pay off a bill, get out of debt, pay something off, put back in savings account. So it's things you could do with that extra money. But from an investment standpoint, I tell my clients, reinvest that money because now the money is compounding. Now it's making money on top of itself, right? You think about Super Mario. We all love Super Mario. With Super Mario, he's running. He's tired. He's running. But once he gets that mushroom, he compounds. He grows into something else. Now the mushroom, and now you get the star. Now you are Super Mario, right? It's my name, Mario, right? Now you're compounding again. You're getting bigger. Now you're able to do more things. You get to run faster. From an investment standpoint, our money gets to grow faster because we're compounding interest. So definitely recommending when we make money, let's not take it out. Let's pocket our gains, but let's not profit our gains when it comes to taking the money out. Let's pocket our gains, but then have that reinvested so we can compound. Let's look some more. Interest on interest, or the power of compound interest, will make a sum of money grow faster than simple interest. Simple interest is very simple, just making money. Got 100,000, I made 5%. For the next year, on 100,000, I make 5%. That's why it's important from a CD standpoint. You talk to the people, the bank, or your financial advisors who put you to a CD. Is that compounding interest or is that simple interest, right? If I get a 5-year CD that's paying 5% APY, but is making compounding interest, that means over a 5-year time period, I just made $25,000. Because 5% of $100,000 every year, 5,000 times 5 is $25,000. What if that's compounding interest? Well, again, I go from to 105,000, then 100 to 106,000. So now it's compounding. So now over that 5-year time period, my 5% CD doesn't make 25,000. It makes closer to 30,000 because it's compounding. So very important. If we do something that's fixed, make sure it's compounding interest, not simple interest. Let's look some more, which is calculated only on the principal amount. Compounding multiple times at an accelerated rate, the greater the number of compounding periods, the greater compound interest will be. So, pretty easy. We know what compounding interest is. The next thing is, well, how much should we make on investments? So we see these gurus, they making 50, 60%, they double their money with options. In the words of the young kids, stop the cap. It doesn't work like that. We like to base our things on realistic, not fantasy, not what it could be, but reality. The average investor makes 3% a year. Well, from 2001 to 2020, so not including the greatness of 2021, not including the downturn of 2022, as we can see, the average investor made 2.9% a year. It's kind of cut off, you see here in the green, 2.9%. Let's think about that. The average investor makes 2.9%. Well, how much does the stock market make that year? And year, and year, and year after that? Well, JP Morgan says the stock market made 7.5%. Also with 20 years. We spread it out 30 years because we're long-term investors, because over time with compounding interest, the more money that you have, the more money that you make. Let's look at this. Well, this comes from our good friends at SoFi, right? What's the average market return? Because again, compounding interest, the more that you make, the more you invested in because it compounds over time. We can look at this graph. More years than not, the market goes up than down. I tell my clients, 75% of the time we get it right? For every 4 years, 3 years, historically, the market goes up. 1 year goes down. As we can see, a lot more years went up than went down. But what's the average? Well, investors have been treated to a number of ups and downs over the past years, but the good news is that the average return is 10% a year annually over the U.S. Now, of course, that doesn't include inflation. After inflation, over 7%. But when it's all said and done, for every 100,000 invested, it should be $10,000. That's over a long-term period. So over 30 years, we base things on 30 years, a career from a work standpoint, a lifetime in corporate America. 30 years is about 10%. So what does all that mean? We know that over a 30-year time period, we should be averaging about 10% a year. We also know the average person makes about $50,000 a year. Now, of course, we have our haves and our have-nots, but it should be $50,000 a year. Tell my clients, it's like I'm telling you guys, right? 10% of our money that we make should go to tithing or any charitable organization that you want, we tithe. But the other 10% should go towards investing. So if we make $50,000 a year, we should be investing $5,000 a year. So over a 10-year time period, that should be $50,000 minimum. Over 20 years, $100,000. Over 30 years, $150,000. So the thought process is, okay, 10%, I'm doing it for 30 years. With about $150,000 I invested, I should have about $300,000, $400,000 in 30 years. Not so fast, my friends. Look at here, look at here. So let's look over 30-year time period. I'm doing $5,000 a year. Look at the top. right? Annual contribution $5,000. Of course, my return is 10%. 9% of that is growth. 1% if it's a dividend paying investment, which we preach about dividend paying investments, make your 1% reinvested. So it's 10% overall. Well, look at here, profiteers. Every year I'm putting in $5,000. Am I making 10% on $5,000 every year? Of course not. The first year, $5,500. I go from $5,000 and then the value, $5,550. Second year, since I'm now starting with an extra $500 from a compounding interest standpoint, I'm not putting in $5,000. It's really $5,500. So now I'm at $11,500. So at the end of 2 years, even though I invested $10,000, I've made $1,500 more because it's compounding. So 5 years in, as we can see, at the end of 5 years, not 5,500, not 11,500, not 18,25. Now we have 33,578. Invested 30,000. Now I have 33,000 plus some change. That's compounding interest. But let's look for 10 years. 6, 7, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10. Man, Excel don't want me to do my due when it comes to compounding interest. 87,656. So in 10 years, I put in 50,000, but I now have 87,656. What about year 15? It's growing. Year 15, 175,000. I put in over 100 at that point, right? But now I have 175,000. Year 20, it just keeps on getting bigger, doesn't it? Year 20, 315,000. Invested 200,000. Now I have 315,000. And if we're doing a Roth IRA, guess what? This $315,000 tax free. If we're doing a traditional IRA, all that $5,000 a year, every single year in my traditional IRA, a 401k, tax deferred. So I've deferred those taxes. I wrote that off. So that's helped my pocketbooks from a tax standpoint. But now we hit year 30. And year 30, now 904,000. So think about this. Over a 30-year time period, I invested $150,000, $5,000 in 10 years, 50 and 20, 100, and 30 years, $150,000. Now look here, we went from 150 to $904,000, making 10% a year. Not making 3% like the average investor, but doing index funds, staying in the market, doing the good times and bad times, not pocketing our gains and taking out money that we made. Over time, our $5,000 a year gets us to over $900,000. Now, if you're using a person like me who's rocking and rolling, whose clients are doing more than 10% a year, that's a conversation for another day. So as you can see, doing $5,000 a year for 30 years, $900,000, that's getting to the bag. We're not saying everybody's going to be millionaires and billionaires, but if we can be financially free, provide for our families, do great things in our community, that allows us to be happy, that allows us to be pillars in our community, that allows us to have some painful profits, and that allows us to get to the bag. But comment below, we like compounding interest, we get in and get out the market, or we let it just keep on doing what it's due. Let me know. As always, like, subscribe, if I can talk, and share to our channel as we continue to grow. As always, let's make some painful profits together, y'all, in New Jersey. Peace.
Making no money mistakes, make a payment on your bills and you still late, yeah. Pay for profits to help you seek change, and you just wanna get paid, yeah. Tired of making no money mistakes, make a payment on your bills and you still late, pay for profits to help you seek change, yeah. Cut the show and just listen. You wanna feel empowered by making money decisions. Residual by the hours can get you a better living. Bitch at the check, you know, and it could be different, you know.